Before we get started in Chapter 1 of your textbook, we wanted to take a day to review the order of operations. Understanding how to use the order of operations is very important in mathematics, so when given a problem, anyone in the world will solve it in the same way. Don't forget at any time, if we're going too fast, you can just pause the video, or you can always rewind and go back. The order of operations, sometimes referred to as PEMDAS, or Please Excuse My Dear Aunt Sally, helps us to solve the problem in the correct order. The P stands for parentheses and other grouping symbols. The E stands for exponents, such as 5 squared. The M and the D are grouped together because these two operations, multiplication and division, are done at the same time from left to right, whichever comes first. The mistake kids often make is they think multiplying has to come before dividing, and that isn't true. If division is in the problem before multiplication, you do the division first. If multiplying is in the problem before division, you do the multiplying first. You do whichever one of these two comes first in the problem, working from left to right. The same thing goes with the add and subtract. Those two are grouped together as well. You do whichever one of those two operations comes first when you're working from left to right in the problem. Now, in my experience with 7th graders is that oftentimes from 5th grade and 6th grade, when they solved problems like this, they did a lot of math up in their head, or they did some little scratches like they went 5 squared is 25, and then 8 times 6 is 42, and then they just start coming up with the magic answer. Now, that might have worked fine for some of the simpler problems in earlier grades, or maybe even for some of the simpler ones on today's lesson, but as you move further through your math career, the problems are going to get more complex, and if you try to keep everything straight in your head, you're going to lose track of where you are and make mistakes. So what I'm going to suggest you do, or actually what I'm going to require that you do, is that you solve them by showing one step at a time. So in this first example of 5 squared plus 8 times 6, you are going to first, since there aren't any parentheses, you're going to move on to exponents. And I like to underline the part that we are doing first, just so when I'm correcting quizzes or tests later, if there is a wrong answer in the end, I can look back and see where your mistake was made. So 5 squared is 5 times 5, which is 25. Another common mistake with kids with exponents is they'll multiply 5 times 2. That is not what this means. 5 squared means you have two 5s being multiplied together, so that's why we have the 25 there. And then the painful part that kids don't like to do, I'm going to have you rewrite the rest of the problem after that first step. Now, after we finish the exponents, the next thing we have is multiplication or division from left to right. So we're going to do the 8 times 6. 8 times 6 is 48. So below that 8 times 6, I'm going to put 48. And then I'm going to rewrite the rest of the problem. Now the only thing left to do is 25 plus 48. 25 plus 48 is going to be 73. Now, as you start the problem and work your way down to the end, it's going to go from a big problem down to a smaller and a smaller and a smaller till you finally get to the final answer. It almost looks like an upside down tree when you are all done. The next example, 3 to the third times 2 plus 64 divided by 4 squared. Now I don't have any parentheses in this problem, so I'm going to move on to exponents. We actually have exponents twice in this problem, so I'm going to underline both of them and do both of them in this step. 3 to the third power means 3 times 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27. And 4 squared is 4 times 4, which is 16. So I've replaced those two pieces of the problem with the new number, and then I'm going to go ahead and rewrite the rest of the problem. My handwriting isn't really this bad, but I'm writing with a mouse. Maybe by the end of the year I'll get really good at it. All right, now next up, after we have looked for parentheses and exponents, now we need to move on to multiplication and division from left to right. So we're going to do the multiplication and the division from left to right. 27 times 2. 27 times 2 is going to be 54. And 64 divided by 16 is 4. And then we have a plus sign in between. 54 plus 4 is the last thing to do. 54 plus 4 is 58. Next example, 12 squared divided by 6 plus 3 times 5. First thing I'm going to look for is parentheses. Right there we have 3 times 5. 3 times 5 is 15. Once I have that down to a single number, there really isn't the need for the parentheses anymore. Now I'm going to rewrite the rest of the problem. 12 squared divided by 6 plus 15. Next up, we would have the exponents. 12 squared is 12 times 12, which is 144, divided by 6 plus 15. Next step would be to do the division. 144 divided by 6 is 24. Rewrite the rest of the problem. Last thing we have to do is 24 plus 15, which is 39. All right, in our next example, we have parentheses that we're going to work with first, but we have multiple things inside the parentheses, so we need to make sure that we're following the order of operations inside of the parentheses. So once we're inside the parentheses, the first thing you will do there is the exponent. 2 to the third power is 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. So we have 100 minus 8 plus 8 in the parentheses, and then times 7. Now inside the parentheses, the next thing we will do is add and subtract from left to right. 100 minus 8 is 92. Rewrite the rest of the problem. 92 plus 8 brings us right back up to 100. And then the final step of 100 times 7 is 700. All right, our last example has a lot going on in it. These brackets here are just another type of parenthesis. So we're going to go to the parentheses And inside the parentheses, you follow the order of operations, and we have more parentheses inside the parentheses. So we're going to go all the way inside here to the 8 plus 4. 8 plus 4 is 12. Again, once you get down to a single number, you don't really need to put the parentheses anymore. But now I'm going to rewrite the rest of the problem. All right, now inside the parentheses, the next thing that would come after the parentheses would be the exponents. 5 squared is 25 because it's 5 times 5. Now inside parentheses, we have subtraction and division. Division would come next. 12 divided by 3 is 4. Rewrite the rest of the problem. We still have something in parentheses, so that's our next step. 25 take away 4 is 21. And when we have a number right next to the parenthesis, that means to multiply whatever's in the parenthesis here by 2. So this is really 2 times 21. 2 times 21 is 42. The thing I'm going to be looking for when you're working on your work in class tomorrow is that you have shown each step, underlining what you've done and replaced it with the new number, basically starting out big and getting smaller. Don't forget, you can always go back and re-watch the video.